Hello there, welcome. My name is Lula. Today I'm drawing something cute on my tablet and I thought I would take you along through the process. So I'm not going to be talking about any specific techniques or decisions I make during the actual drawing. Today I'm going to talk about how I deal with certain perfectionistic challenges, or at least how I try and get around these hurdles when starting and finishing an illustration. I mostly work digitally, but these techniques will work for any illustration kind of project. So perfectionism is a personality trait that revolves around having really high standards and striving for perfect results. It's neatly packaged with extreme self-criticism. It can cripple your growth in any skill that you are learning, since making mistakes are integral to growing. When I was younger, I would never finish a drawing because I would buckle under self-criticism when I just made the tiniest mistake. And eventually this became so bad that I basically didn't draw anything for more than 10 years. I'm not going to tell you how to erase your perfectionism, if that's even possible. But I have some practical techniques that I've learned that helps me be more objective when working on something. I'm not a trained artist or a psychologist, so take anything I say for what it is. It may work for you, it may not, but I really do hope that it can help you. Before we even start a drawing, we sometimes compare our blank page to a finished piece of work, either that of a more experienced artist or a previous piece of our own, the effort and time of which it took to make conveniently forgotten. The worst is comparing it to some imaginary ideal. The unattainable, irrational, perfectionist ideal. The something that works here is to put distance between yourself, i.e. the present project, and this imaginary ideal. Basically, we need to try to be more objective. Thumbnail sketches can be very useful here. These are small, quick sketches that are often used to explore different ideas around composition and color, but they can also help with pacing. Instead of taking off at a run and overworking a piece that I end up not liking, thumbnails remind me that there is no one perfect end result, that if I don't like what I've done, I can start over, that this will not be the last drawing I make, and it's okay if it is a little meh. The rough and loose approach to doing a thumbnail can also carry over into your mental state. They are carefree and fun, and I think that confuses my inner critical voice to the point where it shuts up, just for a little bit at least. Another thing that can be very useful is using reference images. So reference images are great because each time you use one, you are practicing seeing and learning something new. But apart from that, a reference helps me see where I am going. And it's like a reality check. And this mental ideal I'm trying to distance myself from can't really stand up to that reality check. References can also act like training wheels when you are trying to learn something. So obviously, we don't copy references exactly. I like to use them for relative color values and overall composition, since those are two things that I want to practice in. Another thing that helps is working on more than one part of the illustration at one time. So like skipping to different sections throughout the process. Working digitally really helps here because if I don't like something, I can just turn that layer off and get back to it later, or just like decide not to include it at all. I also like zooming in and out a lot while working on the different sections. And this is sort of similar as standing, if you're working with real paints and a real canvas, like standing a few paces away from your work. Zooming out reminds me that there's actually a bigger picture, and that one thing I'm obsessing about is just a small part of it. Another thing that helps with this is picking a minimum brush size. So for the smallest details, I use a specific pencil brush and I don't alter its size. This helps me decide how much detail am I going to include when I'm zoomed in really tight. It's also really important to take breaks, and I mean like real breaks. Get away from the canvas, go do something that involves your other senses, something that sucks you in and reboots you. For me, that's definitely baking. Baking, being outside, going for walks, but mostly baking. I don't think we are meant to sit still all the time. Our bodies need to move, we need to experience other stimuli, touch, smell, taste. Your eyes too, but try and focus on something far. All these things help us forget, and then when we get back to the desk, we have the opportunity to look at our work with fresh eyes. And I have to admit that when I get back to my work after a break, I'm slightly more impressed with what I see than when I left it. I also don't always know when a piece is finished, and it can help to leave it for a few hours or maybe even a few days. I guess it's time to add the final touches to this piece here. An important technique that has helped me is knowing where to add more detail. When I was younger, I would add detail everywhere, trying to impress people with all my itty-bitty lines. But now I sort of know that's not necessary. Focus your details in the areas you want your viewers to focus on. In this kind of picture, it would usually be the living creatures in the picture and their faces and their expression, and then also generally like the foreground. At this point, I also like to mirror what I see on the iPad on my PC monitor. So my PC runs Windows, and I'll put a link to the free app that I presently use for this in the description. The image that is mirrored on the PC ends up being a little lower in resolution, and the colors end up being a bit duller. But I think for me, it sort of helps me to look at it more objectively and to see like where should I be adding details and increasing contrast and things like that. Yay! We're trapped! So that is all the coping strategies that I presently use to help me start a project and to finish a project. It's definitely something that I'm still working on, and it gets better as you grow in self-awareness and self-compassion. If you have any useful tips or helpful tips, please leave them in the comments for other people to try. This is my first proper YouTube video that I've uploaded, or one that I've actually tried to put a little effort into. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this channel, but I would like to keep it focused on my illustration work. If you guys have any things that you would like to see or suggestions for videos, you can leave that in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can try and work towards that in the future. I really hope that if you do struggle with perfectionism, that some of these tips were useful to you. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and I hope you have a really wonderful day. I think I'm going to go draw something different now. Bye. Yeah, bye.